This is one of those early groups from the Cincinnati Federation of Colored Women's Club, contributed to African American education, social welfare. I got to slow down. Welfare in the city for more than a century. And this is the historical marker. As you see, early members groups met in private homes, church halls, until they were able to raise money. They did this fundraising, civil rights work, social justice work. 1925, they purchased the C.H. Borough residence designed by Samuel Hannaford. It's from the 1800s, 1888, Queen Anne Mansion. During the Great Migration, 1920s to 1930s, the upstairs offered much needed housing for young African Americans. So there's a lot of history here. The Cincinnati Federation of Colored Women's Club Incorporated, it was the place for black women empowerment. So it's nothing new. You should know the work of, if you don't know, you should know womanist work. People like Kimberly Crenshaw talked about intersectionality. And womanist came about because the feminist movement largely served the notions of middle-class white women. They were saying, we want to work, we want more rights to work. And African-American women were saying, well, we've been working, we didn't have a choice. We've been working, we didn't have a choice to not work. We worked in the fields. That's what Sojourner Truth talked about. So womanism came about to speak to intersectionality of womanness. What is it like to be a Hispanic woman? How is that different from a middle-class white woman? How is the experience of even a poor white woman different from a middle-class white woman? But particularly, womanist talks about women of color. And so I think the important work of women's rights has to take into consideration the women that the work that African American women did. There's a piece called Righteous Discontentment that talked about the social movement of black women in churches. And so this is one of those sites. A lot happened here. Historic, just sitting right here. Duke Ellington, you name it. Dr. King would stay here because they didn't have anywhere to go. They couldn't go downtown. So
talked about women in the move, like you said, the women of color. How important do you think it is that we get away from that of color? Because we don't want our story to get lost among the other great stories.
What's it like to be a Hispanic woman? How is that different from a middle-class white woman? How is the experience of even a poor white woman different from a middle-class white woman? But particularly, womanist talks about women of color. And so I think the important work of women's rights has to take into consideration the women that the work that African American women did. There's a piece called Righteous Discontentment that talked about the social movement of black women in churches. And so this is one of those sites. A lot happened here. Historic, just sitting right here. Duke Ellington, you name it. Dr. King would stay here because they didn't have anywhere to go. They couldn't go downtown. So
Talked about women in the move, like you said, the women of color. How important do you think it is that we get away from that of color? Because we don't want our story to get lost among the other great stories, because those stories
Right.
are great too. And especially with the attack of Black history.
right.
And preserving our history. What are your thoughts on that of using the of color?
Come up here so we can, because I want you to be in this.
I gotta just get my voice.
Okay, you want to come down?
The
Yeah.
conversation. We need a kitchen table. I don't even have lipstick on.
In the heat. Well, I'm looking down. So,
Okay.
so I thought about the work of you. Y'all aware of LeGarrette King's work? He's out of Buffalo, New York. Yeah. LeGarrette talks about because I always say African American history is American history, and then he's got this whole thing about right. Come on up here, man. Come on.
Come on, Will. Come on, Will.
Yeah. LeGarrette King.
Pop seminar in Buffalo every year.
Yep, he does, and it's growing.
I had
At what university?
The University of Buffalo.
What's the name of the
Conference?
It's like teaching Black history.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
And there's a center that's connected.
Conversation I had. They're interested in their 2892.
Oh, that's gonna be off the chain, yeah. They doing some good work out there. There's also a center for teaching Black history that's connected to the Buffalo movement, teaching Black history in Kentucky, which is doing some really super powerful work. And it deals with this conversation that you're having. We do have to talk particularly about, so ultimately it's the human struggle. You know, it's a human rights conversation. That's why we can have connections to folks in Berlin. We can have conversations with Holocaust survivors. We can be in solidarity with Native American people. In fact, what's the civil rights person that the Black Panther that was killed in his 20s? I'm drawing a blank.
Fred Hampton.
Fred Hampton was uniting everybody across color lines. Black, poor, and they was like, oh, we can't have this. Yeah. And so there is a human rights piece that we have to talk about. Even at our conference today, this is the Black History Conference, but I don't want the white folks to be like, oh, well, let me just tune out. Because I had students in the audience. In fact, we did the whole thing on Tulsa. I said, y'all gonna know about Black Wall Street before we even get to the conference. I'm not gonna have y'all being ignorant. And we got Christy coming, and y'all know what she's talking about. Y'all better raise your hand, because y'all gonna know. And I don't want y'all tuning out when we having Black conversations. And so I'm always making that unity piece. But at the same time, we've got a lot of curricular heavy lifting to do. Part of the problem has been us. I'm an old history teacher. I taught middle school, high school. It's the way history has been taught in this country. You know, it falls on the onus of the teachers. Like the teachers. And I gotta tell y'all my B story. I'm not gonna tell it on camera though. I gotta, yeah.
I want to come back to the African American history is history. I mean, is that what you're explaining now?
Yes. And I'm being a professor in a Black minister, and my point's taking long. But so in a sense, there's a history piece that we need to tell apart from the American narrative. And that's what he's saying. Like it goes back before America. See, man, I'm getting so stirred up. Y'all got me stirred up in my hood, where I got in trouble out here and stuff. They was like, "That's you?" He's called me Dre. "That's you, Dre?" Like, no, I'm doing good now. I go to church, but there's a history of Black that goes before 1619. That's my only problem with the 1619, because it perpetuates this narrative that our history starts in 1619. Even enslavement didn't start in 1619. Enslavement started in the 1500s as it relates to North America. Now, my wife can tell you about the whole history of enslavement in South America, and she can say it in another language. So she's doing this whole thing. That's why I wanted to bring her to the conference. She's doing this whole thing about the diaspora in South America, in Central and South America, how enslaved people would not have spoken English, they would have spoke French or Spanish, or even before that, African languages, and so the whole diaspora. So yeah, right.
American history isn't Black history.
Right.
Because American history, when you say African American history,
Yeah.
it centers American.
Thank you.
U.S.
It's Euro,
Global.
and it's still Eurocentric.
Yeah.
We're constantly trying to untangle from Eurocentrism and white supremacy. Our language has been co-opted. Our religion has been co-opted. And so we have to be able to at least understand that and think outside of the constraints of enslavement. Because when you talk about the Timbuktu Library, National Geographic did a whole piece on the Timbuktu Library. When I was a young person, they had pictures of the scrolls in the ancient life. I about passed. I still got that book.